The planet of Xylaris was unlike any other in the known galaxy. Its skies shimmered with 3 suns, casting golden, silver, and soft green light over floating crystal towers. Strange plants, luminous and singing with the wind, covered the valleys and terraces. The air carried a subtle hum, the sound of alien machinery working in harmony with nature. In the heart of Xylaris sat the palace of Princess Aracel, a place of beauty, power, and mystery. Princess Aracel was known across the galaxy for her unyielding independence. She was young, intelligent, and incredibly beautiful by the standards of her people. But it was her mind that fascinated and intimidated others the most. She had refused every male suitor who came to her planet. Every one. Stories of her refusals traveled far, and no alien male dared to approach her lightly. Many believed she was impossible to impress. Some whispered she was testing the galaxy, looking for something she could not name. On this day, the palace was alive with anticipation. Alien ambassadors from 10 different worlds had arrived, each hoping to become the first male to win the princess's favor. They had brought gifts of shining metals, rare gemstones, exotic creatures, and machines that could bend space. They moved through the palace halls trying to appear confident, yet their faces betrayed their nervousness. The grand hall was massive, with walls of shimmering crystal and floors that reflected the triple suns above. Princess Aracel sat on a throne carved from a single giant gem. Her hair, silver and flowing, caught the light, making her appear almost ethereal. Her eyes, however, were sharp and full of judgment. The first suitor, Lord Veyron, approached. He was tall, with glowing amber skin and intricate tattoos of his clan across his arms. He bowed deeply and presented a device that could produce a small artificial star. "Princess Aracel," he said, his voice confident, "I offer you the power of creation itself." The princess studied him quietly. She raised a delicate hand, and a wave of her fingers shut down the device instantly. It fizzled and disappeared. "It is impressive," she said softly, "but I do not seek creation without understanding." "Thank you, Lord Veyron." Lord Veyron's smile faltered. He had never been refused so plainly. Behind him, the other suitors whispered among themselves, their confidence beginning to waver. Next was Captain Rylak, an alien known for his courage in interstellar battles. He carried a crystalline sword that could cut through the hardest materials. "Princess," he said with a deep, resonant voice, "I offer protection and honor. With me you will never face danger alone." The princess did not move from her throne. She tilted her head and looked at the sword, then back at Rylak. "Your courage is noted, Captain," she said, "but I do not seek protection from another. I protect myself." A murmur ran through the hall. The princess's refusals were not cruel. They were calm, polite, and final. One by one, the suitors presented their gifts, their talents, their promises. A symphony of alien inventions, martial prowess, and eloquent speeches filled the air, but none could move the princess. Finally, a quiet tension fell over the room. The ambassadors whispered among themselves, some clearly frustrated. How could someone be so unshakable? How could a princess reject all that wealth, strength, and knowledge? Yet the princess remained calm, her gaze steady, her demeanor unshaken. Hours passed and the suitors grew weary. Some left quietly, defeated. Others lingered, hoping for some hint of approval. But Princess Aracel gave none. Meanwhile, in a distant star system, on a small blue planet called Earth, a human named Ethan Cade was preparing for a journey. Unlike the alien suitors of Xylaris, Ethan was neither wealthy nor adorned with tattoos or jewels. He had no devices capable of bending space or cutting through metal with ease. He had only his human intelligence, courage, and curiosity. Ethan had heard stories about Xylaris and the famous princess. Humans had only recently begun exploring the galaxy, and most other species considered them ordinary, even weak. But Ethan was different. He was fascinated by alien cultures and believed humans had unique strengths, adaptability, problem-solving, and the ability to connect emotionally with others. When he learned of the princess and her refusals, he decided that he would go to Xylaris, not to impress her with grandeur, but to learn, to explore, and perhaps to understand her. The journey was long, passing through asteroid fields and systems unfamiliar even to experienced travelers. Yet Ethan's ship, small and unassuming, navigated the hazards with careful precision. He relied on his human ingenuity, adjusting course with calculations, instinct, and sometimes luck. Upon entering Xylaris' orbit, Ethan's eyes widened. The floating crystal towers gleamed under the light of 3 suns, and the palace, perched on a high plateau, radiated beauty and power. For a moment he felt a mix of awe and doubt. Could a human truly stand before such a being? In a world so different from his own? He landed in a quiet courtyard outside the palace. Guards approached, their forms alien, their armor glinting with energy. Yet Ethan did not panic. He bowed politely, smiled, and said, "I come with respect for Princess Aracel. I wish only to learn and to understand her people." The guards whispered among themselves but allowed him passage. They had seen many who tried to impress the princess with arrogance or power. This human was different. There was no boast, no demand, just humility. Inside the palace, the atmosphere was tense. The princess had been informed of the human's arrival. She watched him enter the hall, small and unassuming compared to the towering alien suitors she had dismissed before. He did not kneel. He did not present gifts. Instead, he looked around, admiring the crystal walls, the machines humming silently, and the intricate designs of the palace. "Princess Aracel," he said respectfully, "your world is extraordinary. I hope to learn what makes it so." The princess raised an eyebrow. There was no arrogance in his voice, no demand for attention. He did not claim to be better or stronger. He simply expressed curiosity and respect. For the first time in many cycles, Princess Aracel felt intrigued. She motioned for him to approach. "Why have you come, human?" she asked. Her voice was calm, almost musical, but there was a sharpness in it. "Do you wish to join the long list of suitors who failed? To impress me?" Ethan shook his head. "No, princess, I do not seek to impress. I wish to understand. I wish to see how your people think, how you live, and what you value. If I can learn from you, that is enough." A murmur ran through the palace. Servants and advisors exchanged surprised looks. No one had ever spoken to the princess this way. No one had ever arrived with neither wealth nor weapons, yet carried such quiet confidence. The princess studied him closely. She could see he was not lying. There was no hidden ambition, no trick, only curiosity and sincerity. "Very well, human," she said after a long pause. "You may observe, but understand this. Many have come before you and many have left disappointed. Do not expect favors. Learn what you can and perhaps you will see the truth of Xylaris yourself." Ethan nodded. "I understand, princess, thank you." As he followed her through the palace, he noticed things others might overlook. The intricate designs of the walls were not just decorative, they were a form of communication. The machines in the background seemed alive, responding to the needs of the people. The gardens were not only beautiful, they were carefully cultivated for both sustenance and energy. Princess Aracel watched him with growing interest. No other suitor had noticed these details. No other suitor had asked questions about the people, the machines, or the plants. Most had been focused on showing off. Ethan, however, saw the world itself. Hours passed. Ethan asked questions, and the princess answered, not only about the technology but about culture, philosophy, and values. He listened carefully, sometimes nodding, sometimes pausing to think. By the end of the day, Princess Aracel realized something remarkable. This human was not like the others. He did not try to dominate, to dazzle, or to boast. He simply observed, learned, and respected. For the first time in many cycles, she wondered, could there be something extraordinary about humans? Could one of them, humble and curious, possess qualities that even the most advanced alien could not see in themselves? The palace was quiet as the sun set. casting shifting colors across the crystalline walls. Princess Arizel looked at Ethan and allowed herself a small, thoughtful smile. For the first time in a long time, she was curious, not as a ruler, not as a princess, but as a being wondering about another. And in that moment, a small, quiet shift began. A shift that might change not only her world, but the galaxy itself. The next morning, Princess Arizel led Ethan through the vast halls of the palace. Sunlight, filtered through crystal ceilings, danced across the floors in rainbow patterns. The human's eyes widened with wonder, not out of fear, but genuine curiosity. He moved carefully, trying not to disturb anything, but noticing every detail. "This palace, it is incredible," Ethan said softly. "Every corner seems alive. Every wall tells a story. Your people must be very wise to design such things." Princess Arizel studied him. "Many think power is shown through grandeur," she said, "but true understanding comes from observation and care. You notice what others ignore. That is unusual for a stranger." Ethan smiled. "I try to see the world as it is, not just as it appears. I want to learn." Arizel paused at a door lined with shimmering glyphs. "Very well, human. Today you will face the first of my tests. Many before you have failed. Not because the challenges were impossible, but because they approached them with pride or greed. You must approach with your mind, not your status." The door opened to reveal a chamber filled with puzzles and mechanisms. Strange lights floated in the air, and moving platforms hovered over a deep pit that seemed to stretch endlessly. Alien symbols glowed on the walls, some shifting constantly. "Your task," Arizel said, "is to reach the center of this chamber and retrieve the crystal at its heart. But understand this: the path will not be obvious. Only those who observe and adapt will succeed. Other suitors, if present, would have tried to leap over obstacles with strength or attempt to force mechanisms open." Ethan, however, stepped carefully, studying the room. He noticed subtle patterns in the glyphs, slight changes in the floating platforms, and the way the lights shifted. He did not rush. Hours passed as he moved carefully, sometimes pausing, sometimes backtracking to understand the mechanisms. Sweat beaded on his forehead, not from fear, but from concentration. Each puzzle required patience, logic, and careful observation, qualities often underestimated by alien suitors who relied on displays of power or wealth. Finally, Ethan reached the center. The crystal hovered in a beam of soft light. With steady hands, he touched it, feeling a surge of energy, not dangerous, but confirming his success. Princess Arizel appeared at the entrance, her eyes narrowing slightly in surprise. "You have succeeded," she said. "Most fail quickly, relying on force. You relied on thought and observation. That is impressive." Ethan smiled politely. "Thank you, Princess. I only followed what seemed most logical and careful." She nodded, but her expression was thoughtful. She had expected the human to be clever, but she had not anticipated how calm and patient he would be under pressure. "Very well," she said. "You may rest. Tomorrow you will face the second test. It will challenge your character, not your mind." Ethan left the chamber, careful not to disturb anything. Outside, he paused in the palace gardens. The air smelled sweet, filled with the scent of glowing flowers and strange fruits. Birds with translucent wings sang softly, and in the distance, fountains of shimmering liquid danced gracefully. Ethan felt calm here, unlike the tense halls of the main palace. As he walked, he thought about the first challenge. Most aliens would have tried to dominate or destroy the obstacles. Humans, he reflected, often succeed by adapting and thinking creatively. Perhaps this was why he was here. His way of seeing the world was different. The next day, Princess Arizel led him to a courtyard filled with alien children and creatures. "Your second test," she explained, "is to solve a problem that cannot be solved by strength or intelligence alone. Observe carefully." A group of creatures resembling small glowing spheres had become tangled in a complex web of vines. They were frightened and could not escape. Nearby, the children watched with worried expressions, unsure how to help. Many previous suitors would have tried to remove the creatures with tools or magic devices, but Aracel wanted to see compassion and understanding. Ethan knelt beside the creatures. He studied the web carefully, noticing patterns in the vine's movements and how the creatures reacted. Slowly, he began untangling the vines, speaking gently to calm the creatures. He did not use power, but patience. He listened to the children, teaching them how to help safely. By the end of the morning, the creatures were free, the children were smiling, and the courtyard felt alive with gratitude. Princess Aracel watched from a distance, her arms crossed, a small smile forming on her face. "You are different," she said when Ethan approached. "Most who arrive here only think of themselves. You think of others." Ethan nodded. "I try to help when I can. That is what humans do, Princess. We are stronger when we work together, and sometimes the smallest kindness matters more than any display of strength or wealth." Aracel's expression softened. She had seen few who acted with such care. Alien suitors often sought attention or admiration. Humans, she realized, had qualities her species often overlooked: patience, empathy, and a simple, quiet courage. Later, Ethan explored the palace with permission, asking questions about technology, culture, and history. He did not demand answers, but listened carefully. He noticed the effort behind every invention, the thought behind every decision, and the respect Aracel's people had for balance and harmony. That evening, the princess called him to the observation tower. The three suns were setting, painting the sky with vibrant colors of gold, orange, and green. Ethan stood beside her, silent, simply enjoying the beauty of the moment. "You see the suns?" she said softly. "Each one is unique, yet they shine together. So too should knowledge, culture, and even people from different worlds. Harmony is rare, but valuable." Ethan nodded. "It is beautiful. Your people are fortunate to live in such balance. And yet, Princess, even here, I see challenges. Differences can cause tension, and not everyone appreciates harmony. I have seen that in my own world." Aracel looked at him closely. "You are wise, human. Most arrive and speak without understanding. You observe, reflect, and respect. That is unusual." Ethan smiled. "Perhaps unusual, Princess, but I believe that even small actions can have a great effect. Sometimes the smallest difference can change everything." The princess considered this. In all her years, she had never met anyone who spoke like this. Not an alien suitor, not a scholar, not a diplomat. His words were simple, but they carried depth and sincerity. Over the next few cycles, Ethan continued his learning and testing. Each challenge was different. One required strategy, another demanded cooperation with palace officials, and yet another tested patience and endurance. In every trial, Ethan succeeded not by dominance but by understanding, creativity, and kindness. The alien court began to whisper, "Who is this human? How can he succeed where we fail?" Many suitors watched with envy. They could not understand why someone with no technology, no wealth, and no power could accomplish so much. Even Princess Aracel was surprised. She had expected cleverness, perhaps courage, but not the way Ethan approached the world. He did not try to impress her or anyone else. He simply lived, observed, and acted with integrity. One day, Aracel brought him to the palace archives, a vast library filled with holographic scrolls, ancient texts, and knowledge from thousands of worlds. She asked him to solve a historical puzzle, a long-standing mystery about Zelaris's early settlers and a lost alliance with another species. Ethan examined the records carefully. Unlike others who might have guessed or relied on assumptions, he read every scroll, compared accounts, and traced logical connections. Slowly, he uncovered the truth behind the mystery, a clever diplomatic solution lost to time. "You have done something few could," Aracel said, her voice quiet but full of respect. "Not only did you find the answer, but you understood the people behind it. You see history not just as events, but as living lessons. That is rare. Ethan nodded humbly. I only tried to learn, Princess. I respect the past, and I want to understand it. Knowledge is only useful if it helps others and if it guides the future. Aracel looked at him and realized something important. Humans were different from any species she had known. They were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most technologically advanced, but they had a unique combination of ingenuity, empathy, and courage. Perhaps, she thought, they were extraordinary in ways even the galaxy had not fully seen. As the sun set again, Ethan and Aracel stood together on the observation tower. The palace below shimmered in soft light, and the three suns painted the sky in colors no painter could match. For the first time in many cycles, the princess felt something new, curiosity, not just about this human, but about the possibilities he represented. And deep inside, she began to wonder if perhaps the human before her could change everything she had believed about suitors, loyalty, and even love. The days passed quickly in the palace of Zelaris, but for Princess Aracel, each moment with Ethan brought new surprises. Unlike the alien suitors who tried to impress her with grandeur or power, Ethan moved with calm confidence. He asked questions, observed carefully, and acted thoughtfully. He never tried to dominate the palace or speak over anyone. One morning, Aracel summoned him to the outer terraces, where vast gardens floated above the clouds. The air smelled sweet, and soft light reflected off shimmering pools of water. Strange, birds with translucent wings flew overhead, and delicate flowers glowed softly as the suns rose. Today, Aracel said, her tone serious, you will face a challenge that is unlike the previous ones. This will test your character, not just your mind or patience. Ethan nodded, standing straight. I understand, Princess. I will do my best. She gestured toward a valley below. Smoke rose from the far end, and small figures moved among the trees. A group of alien children and villagers are trapped by a sudden forest collapse. They cannot escape because the paths are blocked by fallen trees and unstable terrain. Some of my court's best warriors have tried to reach them and failed. Ethan's eyes widened, but only slightly. He took a deep breath. Lead the way, Princess. I will try to help them safely. Aracel raised an eyebrow but remained silent. She had sent many suitors on dangerous tasks before, but none had succeeded. Ethan, however, had something different: ingenuity and calm under pressure. They arrived. At the scene, trees and boulders had tumbled down a steep slope, blocking the path. Smoke rose from a nearby fire caused by a fallen power conduit, and frightened villagers and children huddled together. Most alien suitors would have charged forward with force, trying to move the obstacles or use technology to create a path. Ethan, however, paused. He looked at the terrain, the position of the villagers and the structure of the fallen trees. Slowly, he began to plan a safe route. He found long vines hanging from the trees above and tested their strength. Using simple tools and ropes, he created a series of bridges and pulleys. The villagers watched in awe as he coordinated carefully, ensuring every movement was safe. Aracel observed silently, noting the patience and care he showed. He spoke calmly to the villagers, giving instructions and encouragement. His movements were precise, but gentle. One by one, the villagers crossed the bridges, guided by Ethan's steady hands. A small child slipped, and Ethan reacted instantly, catching them without panic. He smiled warmly. Careful, little one. We will get you all out safely. Hours passed. By evening, all the villagers were safe. The fire was extinguished, the children comforted, and the adults thanked Ethan profusely. Aracel walked up to him, her expression softer than usual. You did what no one else could, she said. Many would have relied on strength or devices, but you relied on understanding, patience, and courage. That is rare. Ethan shrugged modestly. I only wanted to help, Princess. It seemed the right thing to do. Aracel looked at him with curiosity. No alien suitor had ever approached problems this way. Most sought admiration or rewards. Ethan sought only to solve the problem. She felt a growing respect for him. something deeper than mere admiration. Over the next few cycles, Aracel spent more time with Ethan. They explored the palace, discussed philosophy, and examined the ancient histories of Xylaris. He asked questions about customs, culture, and leadership, and she found his insights thoughtful and refreshing. One day, Aracel decided to show him the private chambers of the royal archives, a place few outsiders had ever entered. Holographic scrolls floated in the air, displaying knowledge from thousands of worlds. "Here," she said, "you can see the history and wisdom of Xylaris, but be warned, understanding it is not simple. Most become overwhelmed." Ethan moved, carefully, observing the records. He asked questions, compared accounts, and noticed subtle connections between events that others had missed. Aracel watched him work, impressed by his ability to see the bigger picture without losing sight of details. "You have a mind unlike any other," she said quietly. "Your species may be young in the galaxy, but your way of thinking, it is remarkable." Ethan smiled. "We may be young, Princess, but humans are adaptable. We learn from mistakes, observe carefully, and find solutions in unexpected ways. Sometimes what seems ordinary holds great power." Aracel considered this. Perhaps humans were indeed different from all other species she had known. They did not rely solely on strength or technology. They relied on creativity, empathy, and courage. The following week, Aracel introduced Ethan to a test that would challenge his moral judgment. A political dispute had arisen between two minor, alien clans. Tensions were high, and the palace advisors suggested sending a military force to assert control. Ethan listened to both sides carefully. He asked questions, considered histories, and examined the evidence. He proposed a solution that avoided violence, a neutral trade agreement, and a cultural exchange program. At first, the alien leaders were skeptical. They expected force or a display of power. But Ethan's plan worked. The clans agreed to the compromise and peace was restored. Aracel watched silently, her thoughts heavy. No alien suitor could have achieved this. They relied on intimidation or promises of wealth. Ethan had solved the problem without force, relying only on understanding and diplomacy. Word of Ethan's successes spread quietly through the palace. Servants and officials whispered among themselves, "Who is this human? How does he succeed where we fail?" Some were suspicious, others impressed. Even Aracel's advisors began to rethink their assumptions. They had underestimated humans, believing them weak and unremarkable. Now they saw a human who could accomplish feats that many advanced aliens could not. One evening, after a long day of observation and learning, Aracel led Ethan to the palace terraces again. The three suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of gold, amber, and emerald. "You have shown qualities that no other suitor has," she said softly. "Patience, understanding, courage, and empathy. These are rare in the galaxy." Ethan looked at her sincere. "I only try to live as I can, Princess. I have learned much from you and your people. I hope I can continue to learn more." Aracel smiled slightly, a rare expression for her. She had been wary, guarded, and skeptical for many cycles. Yet Ethan had changed her perspective without arrogance or force. "You see the truth of Xylaris in ways others do not," she said. "Perhaps humans have strengths that even the galaxy has overlooked." Ethan nodded. "Perhaps. And perhaps learning from each other is the greatest strength of all. Differences are not weaknesses. They can be advantages if we understand them." Aracel was silent for a long moment, looking out at the horizon. For the first time, she felt a genuine curiosity about the human before her and a sense of excitement about what he represented. Over the next few days, Ethan continued to participate in palace activities, learning, helping, and observing. He gained the trust of the people, the respect of the advisors, and even the admiration of the palace guards. Meanwhile, the alien suitors who remained were growing uneasy. Their arrogance and pride had failed repeatedly. They watched as a human, not the strongest, nor the wealthiest, nor the most technologically advanced, achieved what they could not. One day, during a casual walk through the gardens, Aracel spoke to Ethan quietly. You have changed much in a short time, human. Not only the palace, but perhaps even my own thinking. I did not expect this. Ethan smiled humbly. I only seek to learn, princess. If I have influenced anything, it is because I have been allowed to see the world as it truly is. She studied him, realizing something important. No alien suitor had ever taught her anything. They sought only to impress, to dominate, or to display power. Ethan had shown her a new perspective, a new way of thinking, and a new understanding of human potential. As the suns dipped below the horizon, Aracel felt a shift in her thoughts. The human before her was not just different. He was extraordinary, in ways her species had never recognized. For the first time in many cycles, she wondered what might happen if humans were truly understood and respected. Could one human, she thought, change not only her world but the galaxy itself? And perhaps deep inside she felt something more, a quiet, unspoken curiosity about the man who had arrived so humbly, yet left such a lasting impression. The palace of Xylaris buzzed with activity, but for Princess Aracel a new tension had entered her life. The human, Ethan, had proven himself in ways no alien suitor could. He had solved complex puzzles, rescued villagers, and restored peace between warring clans. Yet his successes had begun to stir unrest among her people. The palace advisors gathered in the grand hall, their expressions tense. Princess, said one elder, his voice formal, this human has achieved more than any suitor in memory. But he is not one of us. We must consider the implications. Allowing him influence over palace decisions may unsettle the court. Aracel listened quietly. She had expected such advice. Xylaris had long traditions and alien suitors had always followed them. Humans, however, did not fit neatly into her society's rules. I understand your concerns, she replied calmly. But I judge by action, not origin. This human has proven wisdom, courage, and integrity. I will not dismiss that simply because he comes from another world. The advisors murmured among themselves, some nodding reluctantly, others exchanging worried glances. Change was difficult and many feared the unknown. Meanwhile, the alien suitors who remained were seething with jealousy. They had tried to impress Aracel with power, wealth, and skill, and all had failed. Now, a human with nothing but intelligence and empathy had gained her attention. One suitor, a tall figure with metallic blue skin named Lord Kryn, approached the princess. His voice was sharp. Princess Aracel, this human is not one of us. He may succeed now, but his understanding of our society is incomplete. Should we allow him too much influence, the balance of Xylaris may be at risk. Aracel looked at him coolly. Lord Kryn, influence comes from merit, not birthright. He has shown he is capable, and I judge by results, not assumptions. Kryn's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing more. Behind him, other suitors exchanged frustrated glances. They had expected their status and power to be enough. Now they faced a human who could think, act, and succeed without relying on any of those things. Aracel turned to Ethan, who stood nearby quietly observing. You have done well, human, she said, but the next test will be more difficult. It is not a challenge of skill, but of trust and loyalty. You will see the pressures of leadership firsthand. Ethan nodded, ready as ever. I will do my best, princess. I have learned much from your people already, and I will continue to learn. The next morning, Aracel led him to the council chambers. A crisis had arisen in one of the outer regions of Xylaris. A sudden natural disaster, an unstable storm of shimmering energy, was threatening settlements. Communication was difficult and previous attempts to intervene had failed. The storms are dangerous, Aracel explained. Even our fastest ships cannot reach some areas in time. Some suggest evacuating the region entirely, but that would abandon our people to chaos. Your task is to find a solution that protects the settlements without causing further harm. Ethan studied the maps, the storm patterns, and the reports. He noticed subtle shifts in the energy flows, and he considered how the inhabitants could move safely. Unlike other suitors who might have relied on speed or force, Ethan used observation, logic, and creativity. He proposed a series of temporary shelters, safe routes guided by natural formations, and a coordinated evacuation plan using the palace's communication networks. At first, the advisors were skeptical. How could a human inexperienced in space travel and alien weather manage such a crisis? But Ethan calmly explained each step. "We do not need to control the storm," he said. "We need to work with it. If we guide the people carefully and use the natural paths, we can protect them." Aricel watched silently as the plan was implemented. Within hours, the settlements were evacuated safely. The shelters held strong against the storm, and not a single life was lost. The court was astonished. "He has done what no one else could," whispered one advisor. Others nodded in agreement, though some still looked uneasy. Princess Aricel turned to Ethan, her expression softer than ever. "You see the world in a way that many cannot," she said. "You act with courage, patience, and care. You do not seek glory, only solutions. That is remarkable." Ethan shook his head humbly. "I only do what I can, Princess. I learn from your people and I try to act wisely. That is all." The alien suitors were growing desperate. They could no longer compete with him through displays of power or wealth. Their attempts to undermine him quietly failed as Ethan's reputation spread among the palace and the people. One evening, during a quiet walk along the palace terraces, Aricel spoke privately with Ethan. "Many in my court doubt your place here," she said. "They cling to tradition and fear change. You have proven yourself, yet you may face obstacles beyond your control." Ethan looked out at the horizon, where the 3 suns were setting. "I understand, Princess. Change is always difficult. But if I can help, I will try. Even small efforts can make a difference." Aricel nodded. She admired his calm resolve. Few beings, alien or human, could remain so steady under pressure. His courage was not loud or aggressive. It was quiet, persistent, and dependable. Over the following cycles, Ethan continued to help the princess with palace affairs. He mediated disputes, solved complex problems, and gained the trust of her people. Each success further solidified his position, not because he demanded it, but because he earned it through action. Meanwhile, Aricel observed the alien suitors. Their frustration was clear. They had relied on status and power, yet they were outdone by a human who had none of these advantages. For the first time, the princess felt a deep sense of admiration and respect for Ethan. Yet with admiration came a difficult question. The palace and the galaxy expected her to maintain tradition. Choosing a human as an ally or partner would challenge long-held beliefs and create tension among the people. Could she follow her own judgment, or would she bow to expectation? The moment of decision arrived when a ceremonial gathering was held in the palace. Leaders from distant worlds attended, and the alien suitors were present, each hoping to sway the princess's choice. The atmosphere was formal, tense, and expectant. Princess Aricel stood before the crowd, calm and composed. She spoke clearly. "I have observed many suitors, and I have considered my people, my values, and my responsibilities. One suitor has shown courage, wisdom, and understanding beyond all others. That suitor is not an alien from our worlds, but a human named Ethan Cade." A murmur ran through the assembly. The alien suitors were shocked. Advisors whispered, some frowning, others hesitant to speak. No one had expected a human to be chosen for recognition and respect in this way. Ethan stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "Princess," he said softly, "I am honored to serve your people and to learn from you. I will do my best to uphold your trust." Aricel smiled slightly. "You have already proven yourself human. I trust you to act with integrity, courage, and wisdom. That is all I ask." The alien suitors were stunned. Some felt shame, others disbelief. They had expected tradition and hierarchy to dominate. Instead, a human, humble, intelligent, and empathetic, had earned a place of respect and admiration. In the days that followed, the palace and the people began to adjust. Some resisted change, clinging to old beliefs, but many were inspired by Ethan's actions. He had shown that strength was not only measured by power or wealth, but by character, empathy, and action. Princess Aracel, meanwhile, reflected on the choice she had made. Tradition and expectation had weighed heavily on her mind, but she had followed her judgment. She realized that humans, though young in the galaxy, possessed qualities that could teach her people much, and deep inside, she acknowledged a quiet truth. She had grown fond of the human who had arrived so humbly, yet left such a profound mark. His presence had challenged her thinking, inspired her people, and awakened something new in her heart. As the sun set once again, Ethan and Aracel stood together on the palace terrace, watching the skies glow with gold, silver, and green light. The palace shimmered below, alive with energy and life. "You have changed much in this short time," Aracel said quietly. "Not only the palace, but perhaps even the future of Xylaris." Ethan nodded. "I only hope to do what is right, Princess. With your guidance and your people's wisdom, we can achieve much together." The princess looked at him thoughtfully. She had faced many suitors, tested many beings, and seen countless attempts at influence. None had come close to understanding her world or acting with such integrity. Ethan had done more than succeed. He had earned respect, trust, and admiration in a way that no alien ever could. And for the first time in her life, Princess Aracel allowed herself to consider that a human, so different from her people, could truly belong in her world. The palace of Xylaris was alive with a quiet excitement. The human's presence had begun to ripple through the halls, changing the way the court viewed life, leadership, and possibility. Princess Aracel had long been a symbol of independence and intelligence, yet even she felt the subtle shift brought by Ethan Cade, the human who had arrived so humbly, but had transformed so much in his time on Xylaris. The day began with a ceremony in the Grand Hall, a gathering of ambassadors from nearby systems, palace officials, and the remaining alien suitors. The hall glimmered with crystals reflecting the triple suns, and the hum of energy was palpable. Many whispers moved through the crowd. Would the princess finally recognize Ethan in a public and decisive way? Princess Aracel entered the hall, her silver hair flowing in soft waves, her eyes bright and observant. She walked with calm authority, her presence commanding respect without a word. Ethan followed, quiet and steady, his demeanor humble but confident. The alien suitors, who had once boasted of their power and skill, watched with a mixture of envy, frustration, and disbelief. Some had tried to undermine Ethan quietly, but their schemes had failed repeatedly. A human, unarmed, without wealth or status, had outshone them all. Aracel raised her hand, signaling silence. The hall grew still, every eye on the princess. "For cycles many have come seeking my favor. Some offered power, wealth, and skill, yet none truly understood what I value," she said, her voice clear and calm. She paused, glancing at Ethan. "A human has arrived, not to impress, not to dominate, but to learn, understand, and act with integrity. He has solved problems, helped my people, and shown courage and empathy beyond measure. That human is Ethan Cade." The hall erupted in a mixture of gasps and murmurs. Some ambassadors whispered excitedly, recognizing the unusual nature of her words. Others exchanged uneasy glances, uncertain of how to respond. Ethan stepped forward, bowing respectfully. "Princess," he said softly, "I am honored to serve your people. I only seek to act wisely and help in any way I can." Aracel's eyes softened. "You have already done more than expected, human. You have earned trust, respect, and admiration. Today I recognize that openly." The alien suitors looked shocked. Some clenched their fists, frustrated that their power, wealth, and skill had been overshadowed by someone who acted with kindness and thoughtfulness. Others, however, began to nod in quiet approval, realizing that strength and influence could take many forms. The ceremony continued, and Princess Aracel formally granted Ethan a position as trusted advisor and ally, a role no human had ever held in Xylaris. He would help guide decisions, mediate conflicts, and contribute to the well-being of the people. Ethan accepted the honor humbly. "I will do my best, Princess," he said. "I will listen, learn, and act wisely. That is all I can promise." Aracel nodded. "That is enough, human. Your actions speak louder than words, and they have proven your worth." In the following weeks, life at the palace adjusted to the new reality. Ethan worked closely with Aracel, offering insights, solving problems, and helping with daily palace affairs. He became known for creative solutions, empathy, and courage. Problems that had stumped the alien suitors for years were resolved through his observation and careful reasoning. Meanwhile, the alien suitors faced their own reckoning. Many realized that their reliance on status, wealth, or force had been misplaced. They had tried to impress Aracel, yet a human, without any of their advantages, had earned her trust and respect. Slowly, some began to respect Ethan for his accomplishments, even if reluctantly. One day, Aracel took Ethan to the observation terraces to watch the triple suns set. The skies glowed with gold, silver, and green light, reflecting off the palace and the gardens below. "You have changed, much in this short time," she said softly. "Not only in the palace, but perhaps in the minds of my people and advisors. They are beginning to see that strength and wisdom are not measured by birth or wealth." Ethan smiled humbly. "I only try to act with care and integrity, Princess. I have learned much from your people and your guidance." Aracel's eyes lingered on him. She had faced many suitors in her life, beings of power, skill, and cunning, but none had left such a lasting impression. With Ethan, it was different. He had no desire for domination or recognition, yet through patience, observation, and quiet courage, he had achieved what no one else could. "Humans are truly unusual," she said quietly. "They are not the strongest, fastest, or most advanced, yet they possess a strength that is often overlooked. A strength of mind, heart, and spirit." Ethan's expression softened. "Perhaps, Princess, every being has strengths. It is understanding and using them wisely that makes the difference." Aracel nodded. "And you have shown this better than anyone. You have challenged my assumptions, taught my people, and even helped me see new possibilities." The days passed, and the bond between Ethan and Aracel deepened, not in words of romance, but in mutual respect, trust, and admiration. He worked tirelessly to help the people of Xylaris, and she continued to guide him, sharing knowledge of her world, its history, and its values. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the palace, Aracel led Ethan to a quiet garden high above the main terraces. The flowers glowed softly, and the air was filled with the hum of alien energy. "Ethan," she said, her voice thoughtful, "you have achieved what no one else could. You have gained the trust of my people, solved problems beyond expectation, and shown a strength that is rare in the galaxy." Ethan looked around at the glowing plants, the floating fountains, and the serene atmosphere. "Princess, I only did what I could. I observed, listened, and acted carefully. That is all anyone can do." Aracel smiled faintly. "And yet, that is enough. You have changed many minds, including mine. You have proven that courage, wisdom, and empathy are more powerful than wealth or weapons." Ethan's eyes met hers. "I am honored, Princess. I will continue to serve, learn, and act wisely." For the first time in many cycles, Aracel allowed herself a small, genuine smile. The human before her had arrived humbly, without wealth or power, yet he had transformed not only her perception but the entire palace and court. "Humans are extraordinary," she said softly. "Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated your kind for too long. You see possibilities where others see limits. You act with integrity where others act with pride or fear." Ethan nodded. "Perhaps, Princess, it is simply a matter of perspective. We all have the potential to do great things if we act wisely and with care." As the moons of Xylaris rose in the sky, casting silver light across the palace, Aracel felt a quiet certainty. She had long believed no one could meet her expectations, but Ethan had changed everything. He had shown that greatness comes not from status, strength, or appearance, but from courage, empathy, and the willingness to act wisely. That night, the palace was peaceful. Guards patrolled silently, advisors retired to their quarters, and the alien suitors who remained reflected on their own failures. Ethan walked beside Aricel through the glowing gardens, his presence calm and steady. "You have done more than I expected, human," she said softly. "You have earned a place not just among my people, but in my trust and respect." Ethan bowed his head humbly. "I am honored, Princess. I only wish to continue helping in any way I can." Aricel looked at him, thinking of all the challenges he had faced, all the problems he had solved, and all the hearts he had touched. For the first time, she realized that a human's potential was limitless when guided by courage and integrity. "You have shown the galaxy something important," she said quietly. "Strength is not always visible. Wisdom is not always measured by titles or technology. True greatness comes from the heart and mind together." Ethan smiled faintly. "I only hope my actions inspire others to see that, Princess. That is all I can hope for." The princess nodded. "You have done more than hope, human. You have proven it." And as the three suns rose once again over Xylaris, their light reflecting across the palace and the gardens, it was clear that Ethan Cade had changed everything. Not through power, wealth, or status, but through courage, empathy, wisdom, and the quiet strength of his human heart. Princess Arizel looked at him and knew that the galaxy would never see humans the same way again. One human, humble and sincere, had achieved what countless others could not, and in doing so he had earned a place in her world and her respect forever.